Hello! How are we all doing? And can you see me and hear me and everything? Fingers crossed, eh? Fingers crossed. Right, oh wow, lots and lots of chat. I think I missed who was first. I'm sure there was somebody before Annie, but it's cut me off at Annie.
I can hear you.
Excellent. Well, I'll start with Annie, but whoever was first, hello. It cut me off. So hello Annie, hello Carol, hello Kim. Who else have we got? Renee is in the house. How's the toy, Renee? That was just amazing. You know, I didn't want one until I saw Renee's, and then I wanted one. And if you have no idea what we're talking about, you need to get into Slack and have a look. It was amazing tech, amazing. I'm not sure what we'd put on it. Are you?
No.
Apart from the indulgence on a Saturday night. But apart from that, but even so, it was still good tech. Right, Mrs. Yarnold. Hello, Mrs. Yarnold. And we have, is that Dal's photography? I need my other glasses.
It is.
So I can see. Hello.
No, it's Daniela.
Oh, right. No, that's not helping.
Daniela from Uruguay.
Ah, right. Hello.
She's changed her name.
Okay, and we've got G. Trimpin from Germany. Hello to you. Right, who else have we got? Graham, hello. I love the bear. The bear was fabulous for your birthday. Where did the name come from? Because he was a very unusual colour. But, you know, that was my mum's favourite colour, green. So she would have loved him. Hello, Peter. What's this dipping in and dipping out business? Never mind. I'm sure you'll catch up. Hello, Paul. No, it's Paul that's heading out, not Peter. Right, sorry about that. I told you I need my other glasses. Nowhere with this. Oh, good grief. Right. If I've missed anybody, shout at me. But I'm trying to catch up. Hello, Alex. And I think we've got everyone. And Patience, hello. Yep, I think I've got everyone. If I've missed anyone, then shout at me. Right, let's see if all this works then. It's always concerning when it goes well in rehearsals. Right, let's move on and see if it works. Yay, it works. Okay, so this is what we've got this week. The week at MacBites headquarters. Rare old week yet again, hasn't it? I need the Twilight Zone music. I do mention the Twilight Zone, so I definitely need the music. Default folder, after we talked about it last week, and I said I was on the beta, they released it on Sunday. Why would you release something on a Sunday? But they did. So that's finally been released, so we'll talk about that. Vivaldi for iOS and iPadOS has been released. We will mention that. Then I found a freebie from Craft. So we've talked about Craft many times before, but this is a freebie and it's an AI freebie, so you might like that. Then following on from Renee last week, who spotted it in the wild, mixed spreads. I will explain how you do mixed spreads. Then Mike is loading podcasts and YouTube feeds into Excel because he can. And you got quite excited about that, didn't you?
I did.
Yes. Because it saves hours of work, but I'm sure Mike will explain that. And then after we looked at Designer Publisher last week, Affinity Publisher, the updates, this week we are looking at Affinity Designer and the 2.2 updates. So if you have any questions on any of that lot, shove it in the chat. Right, we are broadcasting in 1080p. Make sure you are receiving in 1080p. If you are, you will have the red flash. If you do not have the red flash, you need to tinker with the toggle in the lower right-hand corner. It's near the like button.
Tinker with the toddle.
Yes, tinker with the toggle. Now, don't have me saying things or I'll say it wrong. I nearly said it wrong then. Right, it's down in the lower right corner. You just need to set it in there, near the like button. Just saying, the like button. Right, let's head back to last Saturday. I wasn't expecting anything gleeful on Saturday until much later in the evening. But... I awoke to 4 million views. Can you imagine 4 million people watching you? I remember having one subscriber. This was Mike. And I remember sitting there thinking, I wonder if I'll ever get 2. And now 4 million people have seen my stuff. So hello and thank you to each and every one of you. If you have ever watched a video, you are counted in those views. So thank you. So when I said in Saturday night and indulgence, and Renee's toy, yes, this is because Strictly started properly. I know we'd had the Hook Them Up show, but no, that it started properly, and it's my indulgence. It's my secret indulgence. Do you know, I never watched Strictly, did I, until Anne Widdecombe was on with Anton Dubek. And once Anne Widdecombe had signed up, that was it. I was glued. And I actually really enjoyed it. Can't tell one dance from another, and I've got 2 left feet myself, but I enjoy it. So it was about 2.5 hours.
Something like
Everybody danced. There's too much filler, but I enjoyed it anyway. Now, unfortunately, the end of Strictly clashed with the match. And judging by the week before, it wasn't going to put Mike in the best frame of mind. But, I mean, it wasn't the greatest victory of all time, was it? But it was a victory. So he was in a better mood than he had been previously. Let's put it like that. Oh, people get curious when you mention Renee's toy. Well, if you want to share your toy, Renee, but I've seen the video and I just think it's fabulous. As did most people who commented on it. Never seen anything like it myself. Right, so that took us to Sunday, and yet again, I was coding on Sunday. But I did reach a milestone. On Sunday, all the text that I needed was done. So I'm not saying it's finished. It's nowhere near finished. But at least the text is finished. And I wasn't that well on Sunday either, was I?
No.
So it was done in episodes on Sunday. We headed into the studio. I know. This means good news on Tuesday, really, doesn't it? But on Monday, the week did not start well. I'm getting increasingly grumpy about this. But there was a new Notion incident. Now, sometimes it's weirdness like, you can't open a database. This was just down. It wasn't working. So clearly Notion had decided I didn't need to do any work. It put its little digital feet up and that was it. To be honest, it's been up and down all week. So I am very grumpy. If I need to share something, like I'll say to Mike, put the link in, it goes in Notion. So what I've had to do all week is like make a decision whether the piece that I'm trying to add, whether I can get away with putting it in Obsidian, which is local and synchronized and it just works, or whether I do need to put it in Notion. And if it needs to go in Notion, then I need to work out at what point I'm able to get it into Notion, and fingers crossed that Mike will be able to get it out again. But it's been a terrible week for Notion, put it like that. I did do plan my week session, but I didn't do it at the same time as everybody else. So I might be doing that moving forward. We'll find out. Then it was more audio work because Tuesday is show day. So we have a show at 9 o'clock on a Friday after hours, and we have a show at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday, which is MacBites. I wasn't actually in Hindenburg long, was I? I threw it together in Hindenburg. The way that we work, if you want to see the way that we work, so I think we did it a long time ago, didn't we? But we've got a new system now. So I'm not actually in Hindenburg long. I can literally be in there for 10 minutes and the show's done. So this one was Elon's rocket-propelled goat. Has to be heard to be believed. But if you haven't heard it, you need to go to macbites.co.uk/macbites-episode-175 and enjoy. We caught Jammy again, just coming out. Now hang on. Danielle is saying, Hindenburg, what's that? It is the audio editor that we use. And it's very, very different in concept to every other audio editor. So most audio editors are for editing like one track of audio. Hindenburg is more of an assembly editor. It was made for radio, and obviously because of that, it's perfect for podcasting. So that's why we use Hindenburg. We have demonstrated it before, but we are now using version 2 of Hindenburg. So I guess there's been some changes with that. Yes, Jammy. We caught Jammy again. Obviously, I put this out on Twitter, and Jammy was coming out of the gym again, doing cartwheels. I'm quite surprised he's got that kind of energy after the gym, aren't you?
Very true.
Yeah. But I do like the way he's described it. Once he's cooked, so he goes to the gym and then eats. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Mind you, the last time I went to the gym was probably the 80s. He'll be all over it like COVID on a face mask.
Great expression.
That's fabulous. Now, that was Tuesday, wasn't it? But you were busy. I'm trying to publish a show in the midst of everything. And what's Mike up to? Carabao Cup.
Oh, yeah, Carabao Cup.
Yeah, you've forgotten, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you did quite well with that one. Yeah. This was basically the B team, wasn't it? Or did he actually put out people that...
No, we had decent players.
Really? They just don't play in the Premier League?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, Carabao Cup's easier. Well, we'll find out tomorrow, won't we? The tin pot, obviously, it's still the tin pot. So, because it was a 3-0 victory, feel free to mention the match. That was Mike sorted. So I think did you watch it?
I watched it.
Yeah, 'cause it's on Sky, wasn't it? So I don't get to watch it. It's a one device thing. But I was otherwise occupied. I wanted to get the show published because it was day number 1 of the next Strike novel. I do like to indulge myself for those. No box set needed this week. The latest Strike novel, I've no idea how many pages it is because I prefer the audio version. 34 hours, 13 minutes. So I may be a while. No spoilers because I've not finished it yet. There hasn't been enough hours in the week to finish it yet. But I'm doing quite nicely. I think I've got about 20 hours to go. So I've done quite well, really, considering it only came out on Tuesday. Oh, Wednesday. There are days... Wednesday, I'm looking back and I'm thinking with Wednesday, I shouldn't have bothered getting out of bed, really. It wasn't a quiet day. No, that was the view from my window. So my day was not exactly a quiet one. Now, notice that lamppost, keep your eye on it, features in the next slide too. But this idiot turned up with some ready-mix concrete. This is because somebody up the road, not the road that you can see down, but obviously it's behind, is having an extension. And when they bring the concrete, I think they've got all of 5 minutes to get it laid. He was sat there with that thing churning over for over an hour. So I've no idea why he headed off so early. And you could hear it while you were training, couldn't you? I could
hear it, yeah.
And it was going beep, 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 beep. Engine was running. You know, they're talking about air quality. I don't know why they bother. So he sat there for some considerable time before finally moving on. When he moved on, Lola decided to go for a walk, hence lamppost. It's slowly turning into the twilight zone here, isn't it? This was Lola on her way out for a walk. She didn't get far because that's right outside her gate. Yes, it's a shopping bag on wheels, abandoned, but attached to the lamppost with a bike lock. I kid you not, that is a bike lock wrapped around the lamppost. From the amount of sniffing she was doing, we figured it was full of dog treats. And yes, that is somebody's car parked on the pavement. Again, pet peeve much. But yeah, why would you do that? And it even had a bag on it to keep it dry.
Yes, Renee, a shopping trolley.
A shopping trolley. But, you know, why would you put that there? Because the car's already, I would say that's covering about, would you say 45% of the pavement?
Yeah.
Almost half. They then dump that, and if you're in a wheelchair or with a child in a pram, you're not getting past that. And the only other way is in the middle of the road. And that's presupposing that you can get past the cement truck. Do you know, you would think we lived somewhere bizarre, wouldn't you?
Kim says probably some chicken inside.
Well, whatever it was, Lola was most partial and decided she'd have some on her way back. But when she got back, it had gone. So whoever had abandoned it came back for it. Oh, I wish we lived somewhere simple. Here used to be simple, used to be fabulous. And when something like that happens, I just turn to Mike and shake my head slowly and say, thank God Mum's dead. Because if she found that somebody had attached that to the lamppost outside her house with a bike lock, I honestly don't know what she would do. I won't put it past her to call the police. Yes, so it disappeared. Now, although we had played in the tin pot the day before, the tin pot reared its ugly head again. And this was because it was draw time, and we don't care, do we, Mike? As long as it's away. And that way we don't have the perilous acquisition of tickets to concern ourselves with. Needless to say, we were drawn at home again to Newcastle. Now, didn't Newcastle stuff somebody 8-0 last week?
They did, yeah. Sheffield United.
So it's not looking well. Isn't that match at the end of October?
I think, yeah, it is.
Because we've got a load of with Copenhagen and Munich and all kinds of stuff happening before then. But at least the draw was done. We could have done with somebody easier than Newcastle, but never mind. Right, Thursday, I was quite surprised on Thursday because Vivaldi just became available. Now, I've been using the beta since day one, and to be honest, it's been rock solid since day one. It's no charge, totally free, as is the desktop version, and it's available right now. So can't recommend that highly enough. I do have a link and we will be talking about it a little bit, but it's perfect. It actually became perfect for me as soon as I could make it the default browser. and I love it. Absolutely love it. Best browser ever. And I mean, it's the best browser ever on the desktop, but to have the same features and settings that you're used to on the iPad is just amazing. Love it. Oh, and then Tesco came, didn't they? Almost full house. There was just an issue with the mushroom, wasn't there?
It was closed cut mushroom instead of sliced mushrooms, which means Mug in here has to slice them himself.
Oh dear. And what did you know? There I was going to give them some confetti, but clearly not. They got mushrooms here.
True.
They did quite well. Which took us to today. I was playing my Friday playlist, in Spotify.
Oh.
Ready for Friday. I did get my weekly review done, but again, I've moved the time and it's weird doing it on your own rather than doing it with a room full of people. I'll see how that goes. Right, so default folder. Mike, have you got the link from last week's show? That would be a start.
I can find the link from last week's show.
We talked about it last week. There was a big demo of it last week. I did mention I was using the beta, and I did talk about some of the features that were new in version 6. As I say, it came out on Sunday. I have no idea why they picked Sunday. I don't know, but they did. I'm guessing they wanted it out in good time for Sonoma. It is Sonoma compatible if you have done the Sonoma thing. Have we done the Sonoma thing? Not on any machine that we actually need, no. But we have penciled it in for August next year. So, we've started.
Renee reinstalled it.
Oh! It's one of those things, like I said last week, and I did mention it on MacBites as well, that some things you can set and forget. And to some degree you could do that with default folder, but actually it works much better, especially the bit on the left-hand side where you're working with things that you're working with this week. So I think at least for 2 to 3 months, if you just clock what folders you do access and you add those to favourites or on the left, you will appreciate default folder even more. So if you have never bought it, it's quite expensive. I think it was £42. If you have bought it, then there's a gradient of upgrade prices, a whole range of them. But this is the feature list. So pretty much everything that I talked about last week. I particularly find it useful that you can synchronise the stuff between computers. There are some localizations that are available, but sadly Dutch isn't one of them. Maybe you could try German or French, Renee. Which one would you use? English, German or French? Because I know you speak more languages than is wise for somebody. Right, pricing-wise is, if you bought it after the 1st of March, then it's a free update. Now, I'm assuming, I literally cannot remember when I installed the beta. Oh, yes, it is on setup. You're quite right. So if you've got setup, you don't have to pay for it at all because it's in your setup thing. But after the 1st of March, you get a free upgrade. If you upgraded between September and March, then it's $9.95. And if you purchased before September, then it's $19.95, which is what I paid. Now, it's $19.95, but then there's tax on top of that. So if you do pay sales tax, it'll go on top of that. So I think mine came to about £22, which is $19 converted plus the VAT. They always get me. Oh, Renee is having English. No Spanish version. No, I find it very strange that there isn't a Spanish version. There's some languages in there. And I think Spanish is the most common language spoken in the world, isn't it? I would have expected Spanish, but no, there isn't. I always find it strange when I'm sharing a computer with somebody, sharing a screen share with as a friend I've got in Canada, and she has her computer set to French. And it always amazes me that the one word that I understand is fenêtre. So when you're looking at the menu, it actually says fenêtre. And to me, that's like window back in the day. You remember the French books we had where they actually drew a window? Yeah. But there is a French one, but there is no Spanish one, I'm afraid. So that is it with default folder. If I find any more new features that we didn't talk about last week, I will do that. I will go over them. But the thing to remember with this is it is not subscription, which amazed me. Everything is subscription, but this is not subscription. So you can either get it via setup if you are that way inclined, or you can get it direct from them. But you can use it on more than one machine, and you can synchronize the settings between the two without paying anything extra. So there we go. What's Jammy missed? Oh, he upgraded. We've got money out of him. Yes, we've all been admiring Renee's toy. Right, so that was default folder released. Another thing that was released this week was Vivaldi for iOS and iPad. So how many of you use any other browser on iOS or iPadOS other than Safari?
Me.
Which do you use?
I use Chrome.
Oh, I did have Chrome installed. I did have Firefox installed, and Firefox was my default. But as I said, I've been using Vivaldi since the beta started, which was a good few months ago. The only thing that stopped me from relying on it completely was I realised as soon as I had it installed that the number of times I open a browser is like once a week. But the number of times I tap on a link from somewhere and that opens a browser, that's my common use for it. So until I could make it the default, it was annoying. But now you can make it the default, and obviously it's out anyway. We have Google Chrome, Safari, Chrome. Wow. Debbie was using Firefox, Chrome for Paul. Oh, Vivaldi on the MacBook for Renee, and Chrome on iPad. Now's the time to move, Renee. What they've done with it is WebKit. So it isn't WebKit on the desktop, but you don't have a choice on devices. It's the Apple way or the highway. So in terms of rendering, it will render everything. You're not going to have a problem with it. The only site I have tried to get to with it, and it gets upset, is YouTube Studio. And what it does is put up icons for every other browser known to mankind and says, your browser isn't one of these. Do you want to continue? And I'm like, yes. And if you could remember that would be even better. It does work. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. As I said, it's WebKit, so there would be no problem. But that is what you have to do. Oh, Peter's got Opera and Vivaldi on the Mac. Firefox, Jammy, it didn't log me out, but what it did was it started prompting me for other stuff. Do you want this VPN? Do you want this? Do you want that? No, leave me alone. That's spam. So I'm glad to dump it. So it is available. One thing that you can do with it that people may like, if you look at the top of that, just under the Desert Island Disc thing, that what's it called? Something Island, that thing. You can see you have full tabs like you would have on desktop. Now that is an option, and it isn't one that I have turned on. I access the tabs at the bottom.
Dynamic.
Is it Dynamic Island?
Dynamic Island.
Yeah, that thing anyway. Yeah, just underneath that. You can, if you choose, make it look like a desktop browser, which makes much more sense on iPad. So on iPad, I do have it looking like that, but on the phone, I get to the tabs with a little button at the bottom. But the fact that everything is synchronized is just genius, and it synchronizes the whole thing in seconds. Literally, the way I've had the sync set up, I go into it and I put my account details in, and I have another level of security, which is a code that needs to go in with it, an encryption code. And I do have to copy that from 1Password manually. But as soon as I put that in, it literally took like 3 seconds and said it's synchronized. And I thought, there's actually quite a lot of stuff that you're synchronizing there. I can't see how you've done it so quickly. But it did work brilliantly. So this is a shocking image from them, but it's the best that I could find. So you can see you've got the tab bar at the top, but you don't have to have that showing. So I am asking you now, would you like to see a demo of this on phone and iPad? Let me know in the chat if you would. All I've done with this is like show the highlights of it, where the reason that they've been in beta so long is that it does synchronize everything. So your settings, your bookmarks, passwords, autofill, your history, your notes. You can add notes and edit notes, read notes. The whole thing is there. The sync does work absolutely brilliantly. So I wasn't overly concerned about the sync because I've never had any other browser synchronizing with iOS. But I decided with this one, I was going to do it properly and give it a go. Right, I'm getting yes, please demo on iPad. Right, okay, I will do that next week. Mike will add a note. So this was just the basics that they were putting up. So I think you can see there that having the tabs on iPad makes a lot of sense. You do have your speed dial and you have access to exactly the same configurations as you would have on your desktop. It does say make Vivaldi yours, and there are many icons that you can choose, some of them absolutely hideous. But one thing that I thought was missing, that was a gross oversight, was if you want it dark, which I did, you have to be in dark mode on your device, which I didn't want to do. I'm not in dark mode on my device, but the only way I could switch to dark mode on Vivaldi was via the device. So I'll probably send them some more feedback, because they did take notice of the last feedback and fixed the sorting that was incorrect. It has its own ad blockers and stuff, and I am not seeing ads on anything. So the one site in the week that again, personal indulgence, that I do see ads on when I was on mobile was I know what it is. I can't. Something TV, and obviously you know with me with TV. What's that thing the Strictly forums on? It's something TV. It's all the chit chat about Strictly anyway, and spoilers and stuff. So I was constantly seeing ads on mobile, but not desktop. But now I've got Vivaldi on the mobile, not seeing anything on mobile either. So loving that. So I will do a demo of that next week then. Right. Daniela's saying I would love a demo and open something like Amazon Store if it's possible, so to see how it looks on iPad. Yep, I can do that. Mike, add that to the list as well. It's
already in the list.
Excellent. Right. I'm sure I was doing something else. And if I was, I'm going to have to go and find out what it was, because it's telling me that it's Mike next, and I swear it's not. No, I know what it was. Why haven't I got a slide for that? I don't know. I haven't got a slide for that. Oh, everything's in the wrong order. Oh, have you ever had one of those weeks? No, what I was going to talk about next was craft and the AI thing, which I don't have a slide for. So you're just going to have to remember, Mike. Write down the time.
Right.
Poor Mike. Right, this is something that's new to Craft. So we've looked at Craft before. It's a notes app. I do believe it's available in Setup, so you don't have to pay for it. If you've got a Setup subscription. We do pay for it because we don't have a Setup subscription. We use it for one particular job, but we did audition it when Notion was having a moment. There's a commonality here, isn't there? Because Notion's still having a moment. But let me show you what it can do. So let's hair off into there, and I needed a URL for that. So I do in here need to see, fingers crossed, if it's working or not. So let's have a look. I know you're staring at a desktop, but you'll be staring at something better in a minute. Right, where's it disappeared to? Oh, there it is. It's at the top. It shouldn't be at the top. There we go. Right, let's do that and pull that out and move it over there. So if you go to creator.craft.do, that is what you will see. Now, I'm not logged in, I don't think, at this stage. And you don't need an account for this. This is totally free. Now, how good it is up for debate. I have done one just so you can see. Let's see how we go with that. So, what it does for you, Craft itself is not just making a single page document. What you can do in Craft, it's very, very pretty. I would say it's aesthetic, isn't it? More so than Notion, I think. Yeah. You can drill down into, you could put a project together with it, and you could drill down into the timeline or something else with it. So what this is supposed to do is give you a full solution to what you prompt it for. And because it's AI driven, you're not paying for it, which is very unusual. So if I click Get Started, you can see what kind of document do you want to create. And at the bottom here, it's showing you all different things that you could ask it. So I decided to ask it to write a proposal for deploying the Affinity applications instead of Adobe Creative Cloud, including details of financial implications. So where it says what you want to create, I have pasted that in. Now, I put financial implications last time. I'm thinking benefits might be a better word. Right, so I put in the prompt. Now, obviously, the better the prompt, technically speaking, the better the document. And then all you need to do is to create the document. And it says it's super thinking hard on it, and then it starts to create it. So it's saying a cost comparison. Well, for a start, I can tell you straight, the images are better than the last one. The last one was the Army and the Navy, and I wondered what that had to do with Creative Cloud and Affinity. I think there were flags all over it, and definitely military things. I have no idea why. So what it's done there, not bad. It's still adding to it, so it's taking its time. What I'm hoping it will do, and it doesn't look like it's going to with this one, I was hoping what it would do was nest content. Oh, it's done a little bit of nesting. Excellent. Right, so it's finished at that stage. So this is what a craft document looks like on this half of the screen. So that bit there is what craft would look like. The rest of it is interface. So this is the equivalent of a craft document. The image at the back can be changed if you've got a craft account. But if you just want to go with this as is, you can see you can share the link. So it's created a title based on your prompt. And it's saying what the function of the document is, a cost analysis, evaluating the software, blah, blah. Right, then it's saying you would need a rollout, you would need a user adoption strategy. That sounds like work, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, user adoption strategy? Basically, that 9 times out of 10, that is, we've bought this, you're using it, isn't it? Even if it's not the right app. Right, then we got risk assessment, mitigation strategies. But this bit in the middle here, where we've got a graphic, that is not just a graphic. It is an embedded sub-document in this document. So even though this is in a browser, you can use Craft in a browser if you want to. There is a dedicated app for it for every platform. But in here, it has embedded that. So if I click on that, it opens up a subpage and you can see it's got the images in it and it's got this part of the information in it. And you can then go back to that document. So the idea is, obviously, the better the prompt, the better the solution. And if you do have a Craft account, then you can use that as a starting point and you can edit it in Craft. You can go and open it in Craft and edit it. If not, and that's just like some ideas you're kicking around, then you could do it via just sharing the link. So sharing the link copies it to the clipboard. If I go into there, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Let's find out. Yes, to try that link. It may or may not work. Might give it a test. Let me know. Right, can I ask it to create the document in Dutch in the prompt? Why not? Let's give it a go. So I'll copy this prompt again and I will create a new document and go into there. Right, write a project proposal, and I'll say there in Dutch for deploying blah, blah, blah. And let's see if it can write it in Dutch. I would say it should be able to, but time will tell, won't it? Is it in Dutch? The title doesn't look like it's in Dutch. That does not look like Dutch to me. I wonder why not.
Yeah, it's open for me, that link.
Excellent. No, it's just strutting its stuff again, different images. I don't know why that would make so much difference, the fact I asked for it in Dutch. I may be able to take it into Craft and convert it. I'd say if you've got Craft, and I think you have, haven't you, via setup, it's probably best to skip this section. So really I was showing this from the perspective of somebody who wanted a head start with a document and has no other access to AI. Because it is using a decent AI generator to generate it. So from that perspective, great. But from the writing it in Dutch perspective, no. I have done that in Notion, and that worked in Notion. I haven't actually tried ChatGPT. Give it a go, Renee, and let us know if it works, because it's that bit isn't working here. There may be, I don't remember, it was a long email. There may be that it doesn't work with other languages. I don't know, because it doesn't say. It doesn't give us any information about that. But that is what it can do for you. So even if you don't have an account, you can get as far as that. You could certainly use it as a basis for a starting point. But it's interesting. It's kind of random, which ChatGPT is. All AI is random. But you'll see you've got financial analysis, and the other one was timeline. So yes, it can create it. Yes, it's pretty. Yes, it's got lovely graphics. I don't think, to be honest, it's detailed enough for what I've asked it. But whether it could do better with a more detailed prompt, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. All that I've tried it with, let me see if I've got the link for the other one. I do. This was the one that I did before. So the prompt for this one was, write a project proposal for deploying the Affinity applications instead of Adobe Creative Cloud. Include details of the financial implications. And this is what it came up with. And I couldn't understand why they were all boarding a military jet. I have no idea. And it carried on in that vein. What was this one? Yeah, flags and stuff. I have no idea what that is and what that has to do with it. I mean, pictures of flowers, you could say they're just decorative, but why you would have somebody armed to the teeth, I don't know. You're lucky in this country if the police have got a baton, aren't you? Much less, well, they all went on strike last week, didn't they? They downed weapons last week in London.
Did,
yeah.
Then they picked them up again.
That's because they said they bring the army in. But the images themselves, I cannot fathom why they've picked what they've picked. I really don't know. So the images weren't great. The content wasn't bad. But you can see, the implementation timeline is the drill down on this. And then it's got evaluation and feedback and training and support. So it's very, very different, even though I changed just one word. But it's not a bad starting point. And it's getting that way with AI. I mean, you can do it, can't you? And so can I. You look at something, usually like an outline for a course, a couple of paragraphs that, can you deliver this? And you read it and it's like, oh, AI generated, was it? And you can tell certain words. What was that one I said to you the other day?
I can't remember. But it's one that we see all the time.
Yeah. When you've got AI generated content, there's like the specific words that are there. And this was definitely there. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, if I find it, I'm never going to get back to where I was, am I? Right, let's go in there. It was my 6 o'clock session. There it is. Right. Join us for an exclusive fill in the blank title. A specialised platform created to elevate's another one, your personal knowledge management game. If you put game in it, that's AI. Hosted by a seasoned consultant. Seasoned. If it's got seasoned in it, it was written by AI, trust me. And then the last line was, set the stage for an enriching journey with A and B. Oh yes, an enriching journey. So I would say AI is a starting point. I wouldn't use it unfiltered, and that one has clearly been used unfiltered. You make yourself look an idiot if you do that. Just change the words that you've seen a million times before, that AI uses, but nobody else uses. But it's a starting point. I think you could be right there. Deployment. Yes, it could have been. Yes, but just deploying something doesn't mean I'd put army pictures in it, but that's just me, isn't it? Right. What's 30% off? Oh, discount code.
Default folder 6.
Oh, right. You couldn't use it because you didn't accept it for upgrades. Oh, that's mean. That's mean. Right. Let's carry on down here. Yeah, I think you're probably right with the word deploy. But he didn't do it the second time, so it's just random. It's random, but only use it as a starting point. Oh, Carol Unleashed, that's another one. The thing is, if you use AI quite a lot or you read a lot and you think, that's definitely AI, you are making yourself look an idiot by relying on it. So just because the words sound fabulous, if you run it 4 or 5 times and you see the same word coming up, then change it. Take it out. You do not need that. Seasoned is a classic, isn't it? Didn't you say that to somebody who sent an outline?
I was just going to say, somebody at one of the companies I do training for sent me an outline for an Excel session. And I wrote back, and I know this guy quite well, so we have a good laugh. And I wrote back to him and I said, did you use AI to generate that? He said, yes. How could you tell? I said, because there were certain words in there that I see every time I try and generate an outline.
And seasoned was one of them.
Yeah.
And didn't he say to you, can you tell me which ones and I'll take
Yeah,
them
so I
out?
can remove them.
You do. Once you start using it, you do get a feel for both in two ways, to be honest. Firstly, a word that just doesn't fit. It isn't a word that anybody would use unless they were trying to impress somebody. And the second way is maybe there's a word and it's perfectly fine, but it isn't a word that you personally would use. So I'm thinking back to when I was a law student and we were doing a constitutional law paper. And one of the questions was, the House of Lords is an anachronism in a modern state. Discuss. And this was in a practice paper and I thought, dictionary. First time I'd ever seen the word anachronistic. So I had to look it up. So I'm thinking, that's not a word I would use. In my defence, I was only 18, but that's not the point.
Carol's put another 2 in
Oh,
the chat.
testament to. Absolutely. Embark. Delve and embark. Yeah, testament to is one that you do see a lot. And you pick up on them straight away, and they're the ones that you take out. But as I say, it's a starting point. I just don't think, if I mention the word deploy in relation to an application, and if it didn't understand Affinity, it should have understood Creative Cloud, don't give me pictures of soldiers, because that's highly unlikely to be relevant. But that's what it did. Okay, we got any questions on that?
Nope.
We did do a whole series on Craft, and it is a very, very good app. The reason that I don't use it more, they changed the sidebar and upset me with it. You wouldn't believe it, would you? But the reason we were looking at Craft in the first place was it had an offline mode, which Notion didn't. And Notion has been up and down all week. Literally all week. So my notes for tonight are in Obsidian, but the shared stuff has to go in Notion so Mike can copy and paste it in. We might have to think about sharing an Obsidian vault. Oh, I'll think about that tomorrow. Right, we've got any questions on that? Doesn't look like
questions.
we have.
No.
Okay, so let me get that out of the way. And I've no idea. I think I'm handing over to you, aren't I?
Are you?
I'm not sure. I might have to go back into here, and I might. This is my presentation because it's not in the right order. So if I whip all the way back to here, I can have a look what we're doing next. All right, what we're doing next. Oh no, it's me. You're quite right. It's mixed spreads. We're doing mixed spreads next. Now I'm not sure if I've got a slide for mixed spreads or not. Oh, did I mention it's been a week? Right, let me try and get over here. 2.2 update. No, my slides disappeared. Make another note of the time, Mike, or it's going to get very confusing. I'll tell you what I'll do.
I'll know about that one.
I'll
It's
get
got
told
the
off
table
for
of
this. I got
contents
told
on.
off last time. Where are we? That's the one I'm
I'll
in.
be all right with that one.
Right, I'm doing this one. There you go. Drawn a box round it. That's what I'm doing next.
Right.
The running order was fine. It was just everything else. Do you know how many painkillers I've had today? It's a wonder I can sit up straight. Right, so mixed spreads. That's where we're heading. This was Renee, who was very on the ball last week. So let's head into...
Renee says mixed spreads curious.
Renee,
Renee, this was your question.
Yes, it was. Right, let's get into Publisher. This was just something that I did last week. Why are you opening on the wrong screen? You're playing with my mind, aren't you? This was something that I did last week, and it just made sense. I'm wondering why it's not in the file open dialog. Yeah, playing with my mind. Okay, right, well, we're making one from scratch anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it made sense given what I was demonstrating, which was, if you recall, it was a package, a welcome pack, and it had in it an A4 letter, a poster it was. Oh, there it is. It's that one. It's my welcome pack there. I'm lying. It's there. It is there. There we go. Right. It had in it... Why are you not full screen? There we go. It had in it a welcome letter or poster. It also had in it the front of the VIP pass, the back of the VIP pass, and the wristband there. So Renee spotted those pages not the same size. How do you do that? Well, the thing is, when you are working with Affinity Publisher, it is very forgiving. Just like we have artboards in Designer, we have spreads in Publisher. Now, when you create a new document, which is what I'll start with, so we will go in and create a new document. Come on. Don't know what you're jumping about for, but new. Right. You are encouraged, if not more than encouraged, to pick one of these options that you have here. You can, of course, make a custom one. But whatever you do in here, you are doing to the entire document. So this one was a press ready A4. There was also in here print A4. So I would probably want to start with an A4 document that would be my poster at the top. So I would choose my starting point. It doesn't matter whichever one you choose. It doesn't matter. I'm just starting with the first one. Then in here, I have some things to think about, which is in my pages, in the layout, I want A4. Because it's for print, I've got it at 300 dpi. Go into the pages. Now, because I only want one as a poster, I don't need them facing pages. So I would take that off. Number of pages that I want. Well, looking at what I'm trying to recreate, I only actually need one A4 page. So I'll take that down to 1. Then I've got my colour in here, which is RGB. We'll leave that like that. And my margins, I definitely don't need them 1 inch. So what I'll do in here, I will make them all 10. And then I will take, no, hang on. Let's turn that on, make them all 10. You're not doing that, are you? Why are you not doing that? They are linked, you should be doing... Never mind, have me type it in 3. Oh, now you're working. Right, but I don't want the bottom one to be 10, I want that to be 15, just in case I want to put something else on it. So that's the margins taken care of. If this was heading off to print, then I would be looking to put a bleed on it. So let's put a standard 3mm bleed on it. Right, the only other thing to think about in here, and you can do this later, you can do all of this later, but right now, in here, you have the option on colour to have a transparent background. So if you do want the background transparent, that is where you would make the background transparent. I do not want that. So everything that I've set up in there is correct for page 1. So I will hit create on that and we've got page 1. Now, one of the options was that there was a default master page. So this master A here is applying to this particular page. So that is something to think about as well. Right, it's really simple to make the card after that. So what I'm going to do with that is add a page. Now you can see in here, when you come to add a page, you've got the options for the number of pages and where it is and what the master page is and all the rest of it. What you don't have in there is any option whatsoever to have anything other than the same as page 1. But never mind that, we'll do it anyway. Right, so that's in here. Then you have, so if you don't have anything else selected, so if you've got shapes on here and text on here, you might want make sure that they're not selected, basically. Right, I can see a question. If you're printing, wouldn't you use Adobe RGB? I may well do. I would probably use CMYK if it's heading off to print. I'm just using that so the colours look reasonable tonight, and it's a demo, it doesn't matter. Right, you have 2 options as long as nothing is selected, which is your document setup and your settings. So in the settings, these are the standard settings. These are really, I would call those your preferences. Those are not the settings that we're looking at. We are looking at the document setup in here. So if you go into your document setup, it will show you that you have Master A and page 1 and page 2. And at the bottom of this, you have all the things that you can change. And I'm sure Renee knows all about these. But at the top, we have this set to whole document. But you can choose selected masters and you can choose selected spreads. So if we choose the masters, it takes away the actual pages or spreads and shows you just the master pages. If you say selected spreads, it takes away the master pages from this list and leaves you with the spreads. Now remember that I set this up so there weren't facing pages. So we tend to say pages when we mean pages and spreads when we're talking about facing pages. But these are spreads whether they are facing pages or not. So this one here, I have only got page 2 selected, which is this one down here. I do want the dimensions of this to be the same width. So that would be my 210 here. But I don't want it that tall. So if I come in here and I make that, let me have a think, about 10 or 11 should do it. So that would be 10 centimetres. What you get in here, it shrinks it. And you can see that. I've had some fun and games with this. You'll notice when I put 100 in here, this bit changed from being portrait to landscape, which would be correct. And the preview changed as well. Nothing's changed over here yet, but this has changed. So this is the kind of thing you would do if you were having an A4 letterhead and a with complement slip, which is just under a third of the page, which is 100 millimeters. So if I click OK on that, you can see that is how it changes. So you have to know that if you go in and manually make a change, that will happen. Other than that, if you come in and say new page, new page, new page, it's going to use the default. So that one is the front cover of that. What I could do in here is duplicate it, but we don't duplicate it with text boxes on it, do we, Mike?
No.
No, bad things happen if you do that. Mike can attest to that. Right, so this is my poster. This is the front cover of my ticket, the back cover of my ticket, and then I need one that's even smaller than that. So that more narrow than that. So I could go and add this, but again, you can see in here what's happening. It's going to give me a standard page, the page size that I started at the beginning. So what I can do with this is duplicate it. That gives me page 4. But this is far too tall and it needs to be a little bit wider. So again, with this selected, but nothing else selected, and I know on here I haven't got anything else to select, but go back to the document setup, and again, it automatically applies to the whole document. And that's probably a good default, because if you've started off something like, I've got a print job coming up that's A5, and I can't see them changing it to A4, but you know, if all of a sudden more budget became available, maybe we'd be doing A4. And if we were, then you'd want it to apply to the whole document. You would not want, I mean, if you're going from A5 to A4, you'll see the difference. But if you are only changing it by 10 millimeters, you may well not see the difference. So by defaulting to the whole document, you don't have orphaned pages that are a different size. But here we want selected spreads, which is page 4, and the dimension across is 8 inches, and for a wristband we're probably going to need that more. That's 8 inches. I think you'd need it at least 9 to 10 for the overlap. So if I change that, swiftly calculating, 2.5 times 2, I reckon we'd get away with about 28 there. Let's just make it 28. Now, it doesn't need to be 10 millimeters tall either. An inch would be 2.5, so I think 20 millimeters is probably going to be okay. And again, you see the preview that we've got up here. It's only applying to page 4, and then click OK. And now I've got one that's wider than the others. Probably could be a little bit taller, but we'll leave it like that. And you've now got 3 different types of spreads in the same document. Now, there is another way to do this. What would that be? Has anybody got a guess? Another way to do it in terms of not having to concern yourself with typing it all in here by making new pages and then bringing the document set up and doing all of that. Anybody got any idea what that would involve? I'll just save this, and we'll save this as demo. You're going to let me type in. Excellent. All right, that's saved. There is another way to do it, and this depends on how you are starting this. So if I open up Designer, I have a few templates in Designer that I use all the time. So let's go and get one. Templates, MacBites. Let's have that one, which is after hours posters. So I'm going to say create on that, and then I'm going to make sure that we can see all of it. So this is a template that I have in here. And this poster in the top left is 16:9 ratio. This one is what I call an eagle ratio to make a thumbnail. This one is this is in the lower right hand corner, is the blog size. This one is square, and this one is here for no other purpose than allowing me to type the date in once and the number, and it automatically update everything. So let's pretend it's next week. So I would come into here and I would select the D and the M's, and that would be unbelievably the 6th of October. And as I type the 6th of October in here, it automatically updates on all of the other posters. I would then put in the number of the show, which is 211. I would change that to 211, and I am good to export those. Now, if I wanted to do something else with these, if these sizes, which I know are correct in here and really easy to do in here, because if I look at where's my sizes down here? We got that selected. It's locked. I think that's the issue with it. Everything's locked in here because I never make any changes to it. Right, if you take that off, you can see it's 1280 by 720. This one here, take the lock off that, is 600 by 600. I do believe that one is 795 by 500. So those are the sizes that we've got. Right. From in there, if I then save that, so we'll stick that in. Is that this one? There we go. Right. Posters. Let's call it posters. Right. So that's me finished in Designer with it. Right. If I come back into Publisher and I do a file open, I can open these files. So I had that up there. There's my posters file and open. And it's opened it. It didn't prompt me for anything, but look what it's saying on the left-hand side. This is an artboard-based document. To use multiple pages and master pages, you must convert your artboards to spreads. And it's as simple as clicking Convert Artboards to Spreads to make that happen. And then they're shown individually rather than you having an overview of the whole thing. This one and the square one, that one there, and this one that I use in Eagle, and one of these is the blog. Which one's the blog? I think that one's the blog. It's a little bit taller. I need the top four, but this one I don't need. This one isn't being printed or exported or anything. So with that one, I could delete that and get rid of that. And now I have a spread-based document in Affinity Publisher that I can work with if I choose to do that. Now, why might you do that? Well, there is one reason, and I'm working on it. You'll see what I did when I went into Affinity Designer, which was I had an extra artboard and I just typed in the show date and the show number and all of the artboards updated. How did it do that? It's a symbol. So when you update one instance of a symbol, it updates the other instances of the symbol. I cannot remember for the life of me, so let's find out if you can do that in here. Yes, you can, because what we're seeing is these in here that have different numbers. You can see that one's locked, but we can go into there and make a difference if we want to. So there we go. Let's change that to number 12. And all of them update. So that's using a symbol, but it means I can only export one set of posters at a time. Wouldn't it be grand if I could data merge them? Oh, that's what I'm working on. It's not as easy as you would imagine, because if I need these posters in different formats, the export in Affinity Publisher is nowhere near as advanced as Affinity Designer. So it's a trade-off at the moment between having to do the posters individually, but the export is fantastic, or do them as a mail merge and end up with 3,000 files that are a mess. I'm working on it. I think I've got a solution, but I need to take some time. Working smarter, not harder. That's the idea, but it's not easy because unfortunately there are features missing in Publisher and there are features missing in Designer. If Designer could data merge, we'd be home and dry. I really need like a hybrid of the two. It can be done, but how useful it is depends. How useful the output is depends on what file formats you want. So if I only want PNGs, awesome. But I don't. I need a PDF. So that's the bit that I'm working on. But I did have a proof of concept last week and it actually worked. So I'm glad I made notes on it. But it is annoying that the stuff that's missing, you know that behind the scenes, the stuff is there. You know you can edit a table in Designer, even though you can't make a table. But there's certain things that can only be done in one app or another. But you can see that even if you've started in Designer and then think, oh, actually, I could do this faster if I data merged it, then you can actually do that. So that'll be a demo that I'll do when I finalised it all, when I've got it all working. Can you not open it in Designer and use the export persona? No, because what would then happen, you would end up with an almighty mess. Because this file would be the file that you inserted the data merge fields into, but it wouldn't be the file that you're exporting. You would have to export that file. You would end up with a second file, and that would have in it, upwards of 300 artboards. I've no idea what kind of mess Designer would make with that, but I'm sure I'll find out when I'm going through the process and seeing what I can and can't do with it. But you can at least transfer these between things, as you've seen me do. And even though Publisher does not support symbols, you can see that you can edit a symbol and it works. It's just annoying. It is infuriating that you've got 3 interfaces and none of them have got everything that you need. That's the bit that's infuriating. But yes, it can be done. I have done it. I've got a proof of concept and it can be done. I just need to finalise it and polish it off a bit. And I think I would do away with the symbols. So it would need a rebuild. But I would do exactly what you've just seen me do, which is go into Designer, generate one, bring it into here. Then I would hook it up to the data and then I would run it from there. And then it's just a matter of what you need as the output. But as a work in progress, that. Right, so back in here, this was the demo that we did. And there are the 4 spreads that we've got. Now, to you and I, we'd probably refer to those as pages. But Affinity Publisher is referring to them as spreads. And it's because they are spreads that your document setup means that you can go in and you can be very specific as to which spread you change the size of. And that is how it's done. So does that answer your question there, Renee? It's not difficult, but it's not obvious either. It's not obvious that that can be done. I guess whether it would be useful to you would depend on where it's going for output. There are a huge range of reasons that I would put them in one file. So somebody could argue, well, you might as well have those in 3 separate files. And then you can produce 3 separate PDFs and it can go off to print like that. And that's fine. But it's easier to manage a data merge. It's easier to use global colours. It's easier. Everything's easier if it's in one file. Oh, it all became clear to Renee. Excellent, excellent. What are you going to use that for? Or is it a case of now I've got a toy, I'll think about how to use it? That's normally what happens to me. I mean, for me, it was this welcome pack that I thought it made total sense. We were demonstrating that, if you remember. We had our artist here and we had document fields, so document level variables that we put in. So we changed the artist to U2 and the alarm, didn't we? And that's why I was doing it on here. So I could run this. I mean, again, data merge wise, if you have, 10 Christmas concerts, you may want to think about data merging those. And that's another reason to have them in a file, because you are going to data merge across 4 spreads rather than have them in 3 separate files and need 3 separate data merges. It's just a matter of thinking ahead of how you're actually going to want to do it. But there you have it. Right, I'm going to head back in here, I think. I think we're heading over to you now.
I think you are.
I think we are. We are. Right, well, what I'm going
up.
to need to do for that is get your screen on my screen and the rest of it. So that is what we are going to be looking at, but I'm going to have to do that while we head off and find Mike. Right, and I think I need to be there, and magic needs to happen. So bear with me. If you've got any questions, now is a good time to type them in. Right, I don't want to save any of that. All I want to do is see Mike's screen and his wonderfully tidy desktop, because I'm trusting him, aren't I, Mike?
It is. It's got one icon on it.
Oh, bless. Right.
One lonely little icon.
Oh, poor thing. Right. Excellent. I do believe that's working. Not to tempt fate or anything, but I do believe that is working.
You want the other screen?
Do I? Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll go back to that. Well, you should have just had the right one there. Right, let's try view again. Right, where are we? Oh, I don't have an option for that. Hang on. Let's try that. Oh, there we go. That's better. Now I can see. Everyone can relax now, because I can only see one icon on my screen. Where you go.
Right, okay. What I'm going to do tonight is show you how to load an XML file into Excel, but not only that, why you might want to do it. First of all, what is an XML file? Well, it stands for Extensible Markup Language, and it's basically a text file with an XML extension, and that's what that poor little single icon is on my desktop. When you actually look at an XML file, it looks like an HTML file. I'll actually open this one up. So let me just open it up with Sublime. This is a really simple one. It's basically text enclosed in tags. But whereas HTML uses tags to specify how data is displayed, XML uses tags to specify the data structure. HTML has predefined tags, XML doesn't. So here is just a very simple example, as I said, of an XML file which contains information about 3 cars. So we have like a header at the top, then we have cars and /cars, and then each actual car is wrapped inside a car tag with a make, a colour and a cost within it. The reason I'm showing you that is because the real XML file that I'm going to use is a much more complex one than this. But I just wanted to show you a very simple example.
XML is said to self-describe. So, you've said cars and then individual cars.
Yeah.
It could be anything. It's self-described in the XML file.
Yeah, it could be footballers.
Ice cream.
Yeah. I got ChatGPT to generate me an ice cream XML file. But yeah, I actually got ChatGPT to generate me this one. So yeah, I just wanted a simple example. Now, this isn't really a technical demo, but I just wanted to give you the background to XML. There's many uses for XML. One of the main uses is podcast feeds and RSS feeds. So on the MacBites website, there is a file called MacBites.xml, and that file is the feed file. It contains a lot of information about each episode of the show, so the title, the duration, the publish date, the location of the actual audio file, and more. Now, you can look at the raw XML itself by opening the file in a browser or a text editor. But as you can see here, it's just wall-to-wall text. It's not really designed to be read by humans. It's meant to be read by computer programs and apps. The podcast apps that use, the podcast apps that we've got, whether it be the podcast app or Downcast or whatever, I nearly called it something else then. I nearly call it Doncaster,
Yes.
which is our name for it. But yeah, the podcast apps, they will use the information in the XML file to present the information about each podcast and each episode. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want to load this into Excel. This was just really so you could see a simple version. I actually want to load the real MacBites feed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring across a new browser tab, and I'm going to go to the URL, which I've got written down in Notion, which is up and running right now.
Don't tempt fate like
There
that.
we go. Okay, and there is the real XML file. As you can see, it's got much more data in it. And I think if I'd just shown you this one, you'd have like run away screaming. Now, if I want to get this into Excel and I was using Windows, I can actually go into Power Query and say import data from web, and I can just use that XML link. But because the Mac doesn't allow you to import directly from web, I need to do it in a different way. So what I'm going to do is, having loaded up this file, I'm going to right click Save As and just save it onto my desktop as MacBites, and it should add a .xml onto the end. So if I just save and close that down, there it is. There's the MacBites XML file on my desktop. Then I'm going to go into Excel, and I'm using the Mac version of Excel here. Is it actually running?
See, told you tempted fate.
There it is, it's running, it's gone on my other screen. There we go. So if I start a new Excel file, I can go to, I'll just maximize it and zoom in a bit so you can see it. I can go to Data, Get Data again, Power Query. I can then say from XML, go and browse, choose the MacBites XML that's on my desktop, click Get Data, and Next. And that takes me into the Power Query editor. Then what I need to do is I need to work some magic on the data. So it's not actually showing you the data at this stage. What I'm actually after doing is generating basically a table in the spreadsheet that includes information from that XML file. So what I need to do now is expand channel and select just item. I've been through this process before, so I know exactly which columns I'm selecting, and it was a bit of trial and error to start with. I ended up expanding all of them and then just picking the ones I needed. But as I say, having been through this once, I know which items I want to select. So I need to expand item. Now, there we go, expand item. And I want to select title and link and publish date and enclosure and podcast. Then I want to expand enclosure and I want to select just URL. And then I want to expand podcast and select all the columns and click OK. So what that's done, you can now actually see some data in an easy to read format. So we've got the title, we've got the link, we've got when it was published, we've got the link to the M4A file and various other bits. If I then go to if I go to home and choose columns, I'm then going to choose just the columns I want in the spreadsheet, which is title, link, publish date, URL, and duration, and click OK. And that's just retrieved the information I want. I'm then going to rename the columns. So I'll just make that one title, make that one website link. I think that's the website link. Let me just expand it. Yes, it is. That one was the date that we published it. That one is the URL of the audio file, and that one can stay as duration as it is. Now, what that's showing us, that is actually showing us the number of seconds of the duration of the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom column, and I'm going to add a formula, which again I'm going to save. Rather than typing it, I'm just going to copy and paste it in here. So that is a formula which is basically going to convert the duration column into hours, minutes and seconds. And 86,400 is the number of seconds in a day. So that's why you divide by 86,400. There's a bit of useless information for you. Once I've done that, click on OK, and it's generated an error. Oh, I think I need to change that to duration. No, it's still generated an error. Okay, here's another one that worked in rehearsals. So what have I done wrong here?
You've gone brackets blind.
I've probably gone bracket blind. No, I don't think I've gone bracket blind, actually. Duration dot from. That looks okay to me. Unless I don't need that. No, I don't think I have gone bracket blind. Let's just paste that back in. Duration dot from. Let's just try that. No, it's still throwing up an error. Okay, well, I'll leave that as it is then. So I'll just come out of that. But I'm going to come out of the query editor. And what I've now got is I've now got pretty much the information that I want. So I've got the title of the show. I've got the link to the website. I've got the date, but I actually want to convert that into a proper date. I can convert the duration in here. Actually, I could just do a formula which takes the number of seconds and I think divide it by 60. Yeah, divide it by 60, and that's the duration of the show in minutes. I could also reduce the number of decimal places so that we just have whole minutes. Why isn't that reducing the decimal places? Oh, I need to select just the cells with the numbers in. That's better. So just the whole minutes. But I do want to fix this date problem here. So I'm going to go back into the query editor. And what I'm going to do here is select, let's just maximize that. Select the date column, and I'm going to remove the day. In fact, no, I could keep the day. I'll keep the day because then we could analyze it and we could say how many episodes did we release on a Monday, how many episodes did we release on a Tuesday, etc., etc. So I'm going to split that column into two and split it by a comma and space by going to transform split column by delimiter and split it based on comma and space, and that has created a separate column. I could call that column a day. And then to create a proper date out of that one, what I want to do here is select transform and extract before delimiter. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to keep the text that is before a certain character. And in this case, it's going to be the text before the space, but it's not the first space, it's the third space. So put a space in there and skip 2 spaces. What that should do, there we go, that gives me the date, but at the moment that is not a proper date. That is just a text-based date, but I can change that to a date. And there we have a proper date. Just change the heading to date. I can even sort the list into date order. So sort descending, and then come out of the query editor. And there we go. What we have is we have the date that we release the show. We have the day, and we have all the information about the show. And as I said to you before, this is now updatable. Unfortunately, it's not automatically updatable because this is the Mac version. And the Mac version, as I said, doesn't support connecting to the web. But what I could do every time we release a show is I could go to macbites.co.uk/feeds/xml, save the file, as long as it's got the same name and it's saved to the desktop. All I have to do in here is hit data, refresh all, and that will then update this. So it means that I've got an updated list of all the shows, and I could do things like, and I'll do this next week as the demo, I think, build a little dashboard of different things from that information, which, as I say, will be kept up to date as long as I do a refresh every week. So that is it.
Right, okay. Any questions on that?
I don't know. I haven't been looking.
No, Kim said Magic Mikey.
Magic Mikey.
Oh, they call him Magic Mike at work. Don't Google that. Leave it alone. Right, let me come out of here. Why does it take 10 minutes to do this? Right, exit that. And good to go. Right, head back into there. And the Affinity Designer 2.2 updates. Last week we looked at Publisher, and this week it's Designer. Jammy's just asked a question about Vivaldi and how they make money. They have brand deals with search engines. So every time you use a specific search engine, they get a kickback from it. They also put Vivaldi in cars, and I think the manufacturers pay. So it's definitely not coming out of us. That's all we need to worry about. Right, so let's have a look what Designer has to offer. I must admit, not quite as exciting as Publisher, but that's only me. Maybe you use Designer more than Publisher and you are very excited. Let's go and have a look. If I can get things moving. Excellent. Right, let's go into Designer. So I heard from about 9 people this week asking the same question. The backspace key is broken. I know they broke it. They only broke it for certain people, and they only broke it on macOS. So this is what you need to do to fix it. I have already gone through all. In fact, it didn't break on photo. I can only assume if it didn't break on photo, it was because I hadn't customized the keys on photo. But in Publisher and Designer, I had, and that was where it broke. But you need to go into Affinity Designer, you need to go into the settings. It helpfully opens on the wrong screen. Where are you? There we go. You need to go into shortcuts, and you need in here to know where you're heading. Right. The first section, where it's saying Designer, is talking about the persona you're using. The second bit is the actual menus, and delete is on the edit menu, so you need to bring that up. And delete is actually here. Now you can see in there that it is allocated to the backspace key, but that was blank. That was where I actually had to put it. I also needed to use it once from the menu before it worked. But if you do have any problems, First place to check is in here. If you are pressing a key and you think it should be doing something and it's not, or it's worse, it's doing the wrong something, then go in here and have a check for it. And the only thing to remember is choose the correct persona and then choose the menu. And obviously you've got all your tools in here as well. So just choose the correct menu option from in there and you should be able to find it, and then make sure it's got that in it. But do run it once from the menu. So the first thing I did is open this off the screen as well, just for general hilarity. There we go. Right. I also had to put something on it. So draw something on it on there, and then I had to go to edit and delete. And then it worked. So if I add some of these on here, now my key is working, but it wasn't before. So that's the very first thing, the broken backspace key. It is fixable. Right, next option. So when you're working with these tools, how many of you, who's going to admit this, how many of you know the shortcut keys? Now, V is the move tool. So I'm using this rectangle tool at the moment, but if I press V, it goes back to the top. So if I am putting rectangles on here quite happily with my little self, and then decide I need to move one of the rectangles, I need to press the V key. That allows me to move these. And then if I need to go back and make more rectangles, I need to press the M key. And that will enable me to draw more rectangles. Right, how many of you know the shortcut keys? Because the new feature that they've added is temporary tool usage, so temporary tool selection. For this to work, you are going to need to know the shortcut keys. But you can see here that this tool is the active tool, and you've seen me draw rectangles with it. If I wanted to move one of these, instead of using the V key and then knowing to use the M key to switch back, if I just press V and hold it, it changes the tool temporarily. You can see up here that tool is now pushed in, and I can move all of these shapes. But as soon as I release that V key, it twangs back to the key that I was using before, the tool that I was using before. That is something that I think it's one of those things. If you are going to use that all the time, you will absolutely love it. But if you're thinking, I can't remember the key, you're going to get more frustrated because you know there's a faster way to work and you're not working that way. I think it is worth knowing some of the tools. And what I tend to do is the ones that have been around for years, the V key has been moved for years and years. It's not helped when they decide to change something. So for instance, the crop key I use quite a lot when I'm making the posters. You can see Vector Crop Tool, there is no key for it. So I did have a key set up for that, and then they changed something. It's just really annoying. Oh, Jammy's got a problem. Just check with photo and the edit shortcut section doesn't have a delete key. Well, do you know, that one was the only one that was all right of mine, but it's the only one that I've not changed it. So all you need to do is just what I did in Designer, but do it in photo. Bring it back. You could learn one of these a week or something like that, or just the ones that you use frequently. But it is worth it. If you're only using, because like, let's say I'm using the ellipse tool and I'm drawing ellipses, circles, ellipses, or whatever. As long as I remember the V key, I can go in and I can move these things, and I don't have to know what the shortcut is. For the ellipse tool, it will automatically twang back. Now, the thing with the ellipse tool and the rectangle tool and the other shape tools is it's the same shortcut key. And so if you look what happens here, if I press V, it goes back to the move tool. And that's me actually switching tools. If I press the M key, it goes back to the one that I had before. And the shortcut for that is M. But if I press M a second time, it goes to the rounded rectangle. And if I press it a third, it goes to the rectangle. If I now go back with the V key and I press M again, instead of it going to the ellipse, it goes to the last shape tool I had selected. And then I can go between them using the M key. So it is worthwhile learning some shortcut keys if they're the shortcut keys that will save you a ton of time. For this use now, I think that's probably more important that you know a handful of them. But it isn't helped when they change them. And they did do that with one of them, and it was the one that I had changed for the crop tool. So now I need to go back to the drawing board. Oh, Jammy, what have you done? You've broken it. It's not there to bring back. I'll have a look and we'll fix it. But that is what they've added. I do think it's useful, particularly if you're drawing stuff and you then just want to move something. It's across the board. So this is the same in Photo and it's the same in Publisher. I didn't bother looking at this last week in relation to Publisher because, to be honest, there was far more interesting things to look at. But everything that we've looked at there works exactly the same way in Publisher. So that's the first thing, temporary tool selection. But it is only going to be useful to you if you can remember the shortcut keys. It also works on the iPad. So worth thinking about. Right, I'm going to do a Command and A and get rid of everything on there. Right, the next thing I'm going to look at is the Object Creation dialog box. So what I'm going to do is select a tool. So I've just selected the rectangle tool. And if I click, you can see nothing happens. But if I hold the Command key down, and if you're on a PC, this would be Control, and I click, it gives me a rectangle that is the same size as the last rectangle that I created. But it also gives me the Create Rectangle dialog box where I can be very specific about the size that I want. So I could type in there 200, and you see it's focused to start with. I don't have to do anything else. I can type 50. I can even change the rotation point, the centre of rotation here if I want to. And as I do that, you can see what happens. It moves around because that's the point it's going to create it. You can either press OK, or you can just click on the canvas to accept that. And clicking on the canvas is actually more useful than you would imagine it is. And here's why. I'm holding down the Command key and I am clicking. And then I'm clicking again and I'm clicking where I want the next one. And that is faster because I don't have to go up to here and click on OK to close it. That would just be annoying. Do you know Hindenburg does that? It exports and then it says, hello, I've exported. And I cannot, there's not a key that I can use to get rid of it. I've got to use the mouse and actually go and click it. So that is actually incredibly useful. That's good as far as it goes, right? We could click there, we could add more to it if we needed to. And as I say, I can move this around and you can see what's happening. Now, that's not bad, but gets better. Let me try the ellipse tool and show you exactly the same. So it's going to make me an ellipse 100 by 100. So click OK and there it is. I can do that again and I can click like this. And I'm not having to close the dialog box. Again, fantastic. What we're doing in here, we only have 4 options. We've got the width and the height. We can make those relational to each other. And we can change the center point here. So those are the options that we've got in there. Right, but it gets better than that, luckily. So if we move down to the rounded rectangle, and we do exactly the same. So I'm selecting the tool and then I'm holding the Command key and I'm clicking. This time, whoa, what is this? There's a lot more information. So what information you see in the dialog box depends on the shape you have selected. Now, obviously, a rounded rectangle is going to have potentially corners that you would want rounding as well. And rather than let you just specify the width and height, they are now available in here. So we'll put this at 100 by 100. And you can see it's got the center here. I haven't linked these, but I do have the top left, top right, bottom right to specify the corners. By default, these are linked. So if I was to change one of them from 25% to 50%, it would change them all and it would look virtually like a circle. So let's change that back to 30. But you can be more specific than that. You can take the link away. You can have one that's bigger than the others. So you could have that set to 10. So it's got a totally different look. You could even in here change the actual type from rounded to straight to concave to cutout to none. So if we wanted this 10% here, we don't actually want any of them, right? Then we could just actually set that to no, and you would have a very sharp corner on that one. You can also change all of the others. So let's put a straight one on that corner. This is going to look terrible, isn't it? We'll have a concave one on that one. And just because we can, we'll have a cutout one on that one. Now it looks appalling. But you can do that. Now you'll notice here that these are a percentage. So if this were bigger, it would be the same percentage. But you can actually make them absolute sizes if you prefer. So you can put a tick in that box and it changes it from a percentage to an actual value. Now you may think, just a minute, they're the same. They are, because the shape was 100. But if the shape was 200, then 10% would be 20 pixels and not 10 pixels. So that's why it looks the way it looks. So let's take this bottom one here, and instead of having it 30, we'll have it at 50. And that is actually half the shape. So what we have left there, that is 50% of it, and that is 50% of it, so 50% of the height. So you can do all of that in there. But what you see in this dialog box very, very much depends on the shape that you pick. So for that one, we'll say OK. Right, what I can do with that is click, and I do believe it should have given me another one. Let's have a look. Are you going to do that? There you go. It remembers what you had it set to. So it does bring up the create rounded rectangle dialog box, but it even remembers what you had, right down to the absolute sizes there. Right, so I'm going to OK on that. Now, we've looked at 3 shapes, but let's look at more shapes. So it depends in here what you pick. So if I pick this double star tool and I click on there to create it, again, I've got a totally different set of options. So I have the width and height. So let's set that to 100 again. And it automatically filled in the height because the chain is turned on. You can, from in here, decide how many points you want. So you can go absolutely crazy with that. Let's set that to 10. You can set the inner radius. So let's bring that up so we can see it. So the inner radius is 53 at the moment. If we set that to 80, you can see how different that makes it look. So you can either type it in or you can eyeball it by doing this and seeing what you want that set to for the look that you are looking for. The point radius here, that will take those points in or make them bigger to equal what we have there. So something like that. Again, it will remember that. So if I hold down that command key and click, I will get a second copy of the shape and it will mirror the first one completely. All the settings will be identical. So if what you're trying to do is add stuff, maybe snowflakes, or like this week's poster, which had a lot of stars in it because it was a rocket. You know, this is a really quick and easy way to do it. All you need to do, 2 clicks, you've created it and you've closed the dialog box. And you are putting these shapes on there. So let's select all of those. Let's come out of there and lose those. And then let's go back to these shapes. So as I say, there are as many different dialog boxes here as you have shapes. So the donut tool that I did, if I click on there, we will make that one 200 by 200. The hole radius, oh, this is Ellie's black hole again for Jammy, is 50%, but we could make that much smaller. We could make that bigger. So if we wanted it like a warning sign or something like that, we could set it like that. So I think for a donut, we probably need about 60%, don't we? No, where am I going? 20 or 30%. That's a better donut. Right, you can also set a start and end angle and a total angle. So in here, if we set that to 70, you can see you get a split in it. And that changes the total angle available because you've taken 35% off it there. You can, when you've done this, still edit this. So you can go in and use the red things to edit it. Shouldn't be drinking tea, Jammy. Never a good idea. And you can change the actual radius in the middle as well. The hole in the donut. There you go. I had that looking like a person before. How did I do that? I remember. I made it pretty thin there and like that. And it looked like a person. Well, it does to me. So you need with these to become familiar with what options you have depending on what shape you select. You access them all exactly the same. I'm holding the command key down and I'm getting options in here. So let me put 100 for that one. We've got 5 sides on it. Let's take that up a bit like that. And we can do the cutouts at like 80% and it looks totally different. Other than that, the shapes are identical, so you can go in after the event and make some changes to them. When you come down here and click, though, it doesn't recognise the changes you've made after you close the dialog box. So you can make changes after you close the dialog box and then get a completely different view. So for something like stars and snowflakes, that would work brilliantly. Okay, do we have any questions on that?
We don't.
It's decaf. Oh, he's dipping custard creams. Do you remember the gluten-free custard creams? They probably have to stock for Christmas.
Probably.
It wouldn't surprise me. Right, okay then. That's creating shapes with the object creation dialog box. So remember, you get into that with the command key. Hold the command key or the control key down and just click. If you do that and nothing happens, so for instance, if I'm up there and I click and nothing happens, you have to have one of these shapes selected for it to work. Other than that, it's as simple as you've seen there. Right, let's do that again and get rid of those. Let's see the whole thing on here. And I'm going to do, let's use the cat. Ah, the cat's so cute. Right, to get to the cat, you need to hold the command key down and click on the corner. Oh, he's disappeared. Where's he gone? Right, let's try that again. Oh, cat's not there. Was it that key? It is. Right, it's the option key, not the command key. There's the cat. Right, so let's draw the cat out there. There he is, bless him. Right, I'm going to have that as an outline. Let's have a blue cat, because we can. Right, there he is. Blue cat. Right. So, you should know that we have had Power Duplicate for years. Who uses Power Duplicate? It's very simple. A couple of ways of doing it. First off, if you use Command and J, you duplicate in the layers over here. So we now have 2 cats. If I move this cat like that, and then I Power Duplicate again, it moves the cat the same distance from the second cat as it is from the first cat. Night, Graham. You can also do that downwards. So if we go in here and select the cat and we do Command and J and we move him down to here so he lines up and then we Command and J, you are Power Duplicating. Okay. Right. That's great as far as it goes. That's a very simple example, but we will return to the cat shortly. I'll just get rid of these while we show you the other things that you can do with Power Duplicate. That one's very simple. We're just moving it a certain distance to the right and moving it a certain distance below. But you can do other things. So if I select this and I put that in there, we have a shape. I can do the Command and J, and I've got 2 copies of it. I have 2 ellipses here and the cat at the bottom. What I want to do with that is like move it slightly. So let's move it 3 degrees. And then I Power Duplicate. Oh, I can create pretty patterns. Who had a spirograph when they were a child?
I did.
I did. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Right. So I can do that a certain number of times, and I have a beautiful... It's like a mandala, isn't it? One thing to think about there is make sure that that is selected if you want to move it as one and group it. Now, this is using features that are already there in Affinity Designer. Luckily, they have added to these features. So the problem with doing that is how many times you have to do it. You don't know, you just keep going. Just keep going. Right, so I'm going to get rid of that and we're going to do it a different way. Okay, so I will draw back in what we had, which was that. Let's add that and move it slightly. Gone. Why don't I do that V thing? There we go. And to move it slightly, let's put it over there. Right. Now, this is like, it's the move and duplicate dialog box. Move stroke duplicate. But Affinity are calling it move data entry. Not quite sure of the logic of that, but there you go. So to do this, you need to select the shape. Now, it could be a shape, a text box, or an image. You just need to select it using the Move tool. So up here, I have the Move tool, and I have this selected. We can see the handles around it. Then you press Enter, and that gives you the Move stroke duplicate dialog box. Right, at the moment, it's not moving it anywhere. It's not moving it horizontal, vertical, any distance, or any angle or rotation. But we can do that. So let's say we want this moving around its centre. So we don't particularly, we're not worried about, well, I'll tell you what, let's do an easy one first. Right, if I go in here and I say horizontal 50, you see it moves it. You can see an outline of where it was originally, which is here. And you can see where it's moving it to. It's just moving it 50 pixels to the right. But you have the option at the bottom to duplicate. So that brings back the original and shows you the new copy that you have 50 pixels to the right. But even better than that, you can change the number of copies. So as you add to this, you can see them added. The huge time saver is when you need like 200 of them. And with the Command and J version of doing this, you just have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But with this one, you can say the number of copies that you want, and it will whiz off and do the lot all at one go. You can even preview it, as you can see now. So if I OK on that, that's exactly what we'll get. We'll have all of these shapes, and there they all are, this one being the original. So I'll move that one back there. And we'll work on this in a different way now. So again, with it selected, Move tool selected, press the Enter key. Go into here. Right, do we want to move it horizontally? Well, we've done that. We moved it by 50. We moved it. We can move it vertically. You can do both if you want. So if you want to move it 50 pixels to the right, and let's say we want it -10, which is taking it up 10, we can go into the duplicate, and as you add to this, you can see it moving off at an angle. So again, you've got that option. Right, pressing Enter again. Now, what is even better is if I go into the, let's say the rotation in here, and I want to have it rotate by 2 degrees. You can see it tilt by 2 degrees. But if you go into duplicate, you can see multiple copies. Now there's 360 degrees in a circle, and if we divide that by 2, 180 of these circles should give us a nice pattern. So if I type in 180, you can see instantly you get that pattern. You don't need to sit there and Command and J, Command and J, Command and J. You've got all that you need instantly in there, and you can make amazing shapes with these things. So we'll OK on that one, and there you can see it. Now, if I take these, which is all of those shapes, and instead of having that of a width of 3, I have a width of 1, you can actually see the pattern in here. And again, the first thing I would do is group them. Otherwise, making a selection is going to be a nightmare. But there you go. That's what you can do with it. Now, that's an ellipse. What I'll do with that is make that smaller and move it over there and do a different one just with a line. So I'm just going to put a line on there to there. That's it. Go back to the Move tool. I should have in there, you see, it's blue, but that's fine. We'll make it red just because we can. So let's go and choose a red of some description like that. Right, this time I've got it selected, I've got the Move tool, press Enter, I've got my Move and Duplicate. With this one, I'm going to move it 2 pixels vertically, 2 pixels horizontally. I'll change the angle. You see all kinds of things happening here. I'll change the rotation to, again, 2 degrees. I'll duplicate it, and I will choose many, many more. And you can see what's happening. This is why it's like Spirograph. Oh, I love it. Right, let's OK on that. and you can see the whole pattern there. If you want specific things like spirograph used to be, you'll be there a while working out how to do it. But you can see that there's kind of patterns that you get. Doing it the Command and J way is error prone by comparison to this. It certainly is. So that is the move and duplicate dialog box, or move duplicate, but Affinity are calling it move data entry. So remember, trick with this is you need to make a selection. So what I'm going to do with this one is turn that off. These curves are all independent at the moment, so I will Command and G to group those and turn those off. And we will go back to the cat. So you can make patterns with this as well. And so we have... No, Ellie's a dog. So we can't call the cat Ellie. But we have a cat. What should we call the cat? Oh, how about Belle? Virtually our cat from across the road. Right, what I'm going to do with this one is just make one copy of it. But if you think about it, you could do this. Let me show you the quick way without it. I could take that across. I am holding the Option key down, and I put it there, and I want to do that with it. So we have an upside down cat. Right, so you could do that manually, but you could just as easily go into here, and I know it'll take a little bit of time to get used to it, but where do you want it? Well, horizontally I want it moving to the right, and I definitely want a duplicate of it as well. So what I'm going to do in here is make sure that we have some duplicates, and I'll move it down so we can see what's going to happen when I put them in. So let's say I want to move it, let's say 80 across there. No, I need it more than that. Let's make it 100 across there, not 1,000. Right. Oh, possibly even more. I've drawn a big cat. Right, that'll do. All right. So I've moved it to the right, and I want it to rotate by 180 degrees. So the cat is upside down, basically. And then, if you think about what Command and J does, if we go in here and we put in some more, it's going to rotate 180 degrees each time. So we end up with multiple upside down cats because we can. Right, you are not limited to a single item. So we have all these cats over here. They are different elements in the layers panel. So let's select all of the cats. I haven't grouped them or anything like that. I've just selected them. I'm going to press enter. And again, you can see what I want to do here. I don't want to move it horizontally. I want to move it vertically. And I reckon I'm going to need to do that at least 120, maybe more. So let's make that 140. That looks better. And this time, what I want to do with it is just duplicate it. So I've got a pattern there of upside down cats. So let's add in, let's just take that off stage like that with 4 rows there. I could in here change these if I wanted to, but that is perfect. So I'll select these and then I'll group them and then move them back. So if you are making patterns like Carol's needlework things, this is a good way to do it. You are being very precise when you move things. So we demonstrated patterns many months ago, if not years ago. And we measured everything to make sure I think we created a pattern that was 500 by 500. And then we laid everything out on it. So if it was overhanging by 50 pixels, it appeared on the other end at 50 pixels. This would enable you to do that. Once you get used to it, you should be able to just type in what you want and it will automatically arrange like that did. So that is move data entry, but I'm calling it move and duplicate. Oh, a cat wrapping paper design. Yeah, I did a wrapping paper design with paw prints on, didn't I? For Maya. Yeah, that's a good idea. Right, okay. I'm going to turn those off. This one is a bit odd, but they've done it, so I'll show you. Right, you can see I've got a grid in the background of this. Grids and guides. Right. Couple of ways to make guides. Command and R or Control and R, you see it shows you the ruler. And you can drag guides on like this. And there are your guides. Now, this document setup has no margins. But if I'd have gone into the settings for the document and I had included these at 10 pixels, like that, and we could see the margins, show margins. We've got margins now and guides. But depending on where you're putting the guides, you may get confused as to which are the guides and which are the margins. So there are other ways to handle guides and margins, and we have default colours for them. So if we go into View Guides down here, we get the dialog box. Where's my dialog box? Oh, you've disappeared over there. Right. That should not be that colour. It was a grey colour. I was playing around. Right, let's do that. It's not quite right, but it'll do. Right, so you can see the guides I've added. There's the horizontal guide. There's the vertical guide. This over here is the column guides, which I don't have showing at the moment, but I can show them if you like. Now we need a brighter colour. Like that. So those are the guides that I've created. But point of showing you this is now you can colour the guides. So the default colour that you have down here is this one. But if you want your guides to be a totally different colour, like red, that is all you need to do. You are doing it to all of the guides. But these were the guides that I put on at 100 and 100. And you can see now it's easy to tell the difference between the background, between the column guides and between the margins. So the margin colour was the same as the guides colour. You can go in and change that as well if you want. So if you wanted your margins to be a totally different colour, let's go for a darker green, like that. You can see these round the edge. What I did find with trial and error, I was really careful as to what the original colour was, because I thought I'm going to have to reset this. Right, if I go in and I get a new file, completely new file, and I go back in to View Guides, before I've even created any, you can see that the guides and the margins twang back to blue. The column guides did not. And I'm looking at it thinking I've no idea what the column guides were, what the original colour was. Luckily, Mike hadn't touched his, so I did find what it was, and I can set them back. I think it was a grey colour. So it was C0, 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 like a pale grey colour. So let's put some of those on so we can see how pale. There you go, very pale. So be warned if you do this. Make a note of what the default colours are. The two blue ones are the same, but they automatically twang back to blue. The column guides do not. You know, come on, Affinity. Let's have some consistency. Either they all twang back or none of them twang back, but not one of them. Yeah, that's not good. So luckily I now have that written down as to what it actually is. But that is the feature that you can change the horizontal guides. For some of my work, I do put margins in, but not often. I like that to be able to have the difference between the guides and the margins. I don't know whether it's better if it remembers the colours you've specified, because if that's your preference, that would be a better idea. Or whether it should twang back. Obviously, what you can do is set them up and then create a template from it. Just be mindful that the column guides are global. The other two are not. Right, do we have any questions on that?
We don't have any questions.
Okay, right. That is me done with those. So let's head back in there. Oh, what do we have coming up? I can't believe it's October next week, but it is. It's October next week, and we'll be back. I've got on my desk 2 post-it notes for next week already. So what have I got here? The Vivaldi thing, we'll probably start with that and do a demonstration of Vivaldi on the iPad. That's a good start, isn't it? Right, On Demand is everything that we do. You will find that at youtube.com/ElaineGiles. There is also the After Hours playlist. And although you can get to it in YouTube, it's far easier to just type macbites.co.uk/afterhours playlist, and you will be taken straight there. Right, we love you guys. If you love us, please give us a like, because it makes a difference. And you could subscribe. Now, I know everybody in the chat must be subscribed because it's a rule. But you could always, in addition to that, hit the notification bell, and then you won't miss anything, will you? And of course, there's Super Chat. Don't forget Super Chat. Right, there is my mailing list at elainegiles.com/VIP. There is the MacBites mailing list at macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. I'm already thinking about Advent.
Mm.
We're both thinking about Advent, aren't we? When you think it's the 6th of October next week, we're looking at like 50 days, 60 days. And it all needs to be finished. So make sure you're subscribed. That's your starting point. Then there's Slack, where we carry on the conversation and admire Renee's toys. So if you need to join, you are not already a member, go to macbites.co.uk/join Slack. Trust me, it's worth it just for Renee's toys. If you are a member, if you go to macbites.co.uk/Slack, you'll be logged straight in. And it wouldn't be the same without you, would it? Oh, no, it wouldn't. Right, okay. What questions do we have?
This isn't a question, but when you do a demo and it doesn't work, and the minute you finish the demo,
it works.
You realise what you've done.
Oh, it was you then.
It was me. I missed out one step.
That's almost brackets blind.
Yeah, it is.
Do you want me to hand back so you can show it?
No, I'll do it next week. No, all I did for anybody who's remotely interested is I forgot to change the column from text to number.
Easily done.
And that's why I errored.
I've forgotten to do sillier things than that. I'm trying to think what I've forgotten to do lately. I left my Costco renewal till the death today. That was one thing that I did. Like you've got something coming up and you're like, oh, okay. The house insurance.
Oh, yes, the house insurance.
I leave the house insurance. If I could leave the house insurance forever, because they're idiots. I have to deal with them on the phone and I've got no patience, have I? With the woman and Sean Bean. I've gone right off Sean Bean. Do you know, I can't watch anything that he's in now without thinking of the house insurance. This is why they shouldn't do things like that for money, It's putting me right off.
There's a question from Peter.
Okay, I'm just catching up here. Jammy's only 30 away from being caught up on the after hours. Wow. You go into the Hall of Fame when you've done that, Jammy, so do let us know. Annie says, appreciate your time and expertise. You're very welcome. Kim says, thank you very much to both of us. Renee says, thank you very much to both of us. Excellent. Right, Peter says, the move and data entry dialog box seems you're restricted to duplicating in one direction only. Is that correct? Duplicating in one direction. Yeah, you can't go in two directions with it. No. Because if you think about it, you're making a duplicate copy, so you can't copy it to the right and the left. What you can do is run it multiple times. I think that's going to be useful, but to be honest, it's a workflow thing, isn't it? It's like the shortcut keys. One, you need to know what the shortcut keys are, and then two, you need to know or remember that you can hold the shortcut key down and then use it. So I'm always happier in applications. To me, it's like falling into an abyss or a black hole. The more that you use an application, the more that you know the features, the faster that you get with it and the happier you are using it. But when they add things like this and then, the delete key breaks and stuff like that, it's frustrating. You're trying to get it back to a position that you were in the first place. And then you're trying to move on. So it does annoy me when they break something. But I think they might carry on working on that. I really do. They're not actually adding features that I'm that bothered about, I'll be honest. I could probably do that in other ways. I could create duplicates and then I could use the align and distribute options for that. I appreciate that's probably faster. But as we were talking about data merge and the export persona and things like snapshots, I mean, why have you not added snapshots to Publisher directly? I mean, we all know we can do it because I did a video on it, but that's not the point, is it? The option is there, but it's not there, if you're with me. There's no interface for it. I would love it if they started adding features like that, which pulled it together. But we'll see. Oh, I'm getting Jammy. Jammy's going to be waking Gareth up at this, right? Poor Gareth will be thinking, what on earth is going on in there? But yeah, I think there's things they could do that I would personally have higher up a priority list than some of the stuff they've added. But there again, I do play with the cat tool, so I've only got myself to blame, haven't I? Well, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, Jammy. There you go. Right, do we have any other questions?
We don't.
What we got planned? Oh, we played Crystal Palace on Tuesday, as you saw in the week at MacBites headquarters. And we had so much fun. We're playing them again tomorrow, aren't we?
Mm.
Do you reckon they stayed here for the week?
No.
Do you know what? There's too much travel involved, isn't there? I must dig out and put into Slack this thread that I read today. I've talked about Rory and Sophie before. Rory was the BBC technology correspondent for many years and retired last year. And he took on a rescue dog called Sophie from Romania at Christmas. And she's doing quite nicely. Well, he headed off today to Scotland to promote his book. And there was a fiasco at Preston Station. At which point his wife gets involved and mentions this thread. So just before dinner tonight, I'm reading this thread. It's the funniest thread I have ever read. And even, never mind even if you're not in the UK, especially not if you're in the UK, you've got to read this thread. This is Britain all over. The short version of this is Rory's managed to get to Preston. Preston's about, 40 miles, 50 miles?
Something like that.
North of us. I wouldn't say it's anywhere near the Scottish border, put it like that. And he's trying to get to this little place in Scotland where he's doing a book reading. And they terminated the train. So he was left on the platform basically with 200 other people. And they just cancelled the train. But it's how they cancel the train that's fascinating. They sent everybody on a train last night a text to say the train had been cancelled while they were on the train and it was moving. They too got slung off at Preston. It's like the end of the line at Preston. Those people were trying to get to Edinburgh, which is 3.5 hours away. So you'd think they'd put a coach on or something. No, they put everybody in taxis. It must have cost them an absolute fortune. It was something like a 6-hour trip to Edinburgh in a taxi. But the thread was written by a comedian and he was fantastic. I'll get the thread link and I'll put it in Slack. You've got to read it. It was the funniest thread ever. He did like virtually real-time commentary on it. But I said to you, I never get me on a train. Never get me on a train these days. Can you imagine just being dumped off at a station somewhere and you've no idea where you are? And it was like 10:30 at night. There were no facilities open. And they actually mentioned that there was one ticket box, didn't they? A guy in a booth.
Yeah.
But I thought they were shutting all of those. So can you imagine that you're stuck there? I mean, if you've got accessibility issues, heaven help you. So yeah, it was funny in hindsight. He did get there in one piece in the end, but only just. And one of the funniest tweets was he tweeted out that they'd just come off the motorway and they were on the A70 and took a photograph. And some random guy who was reading the thread wrote back and said, I don't know where you are, but that's not the A70. That really worried him. Then they realised they'd taken a wrong turn. He must have had that sat-nav that the Tesco man had.
Yeah.
Tell them what he said the other day.
Oh, he rang me up early and he said, is it all right if I come round now? I'm just round the corner. I said, yeah. I said, what time will you be here? He said, well, according to me TomTom, about 5 minutes. I thought I haven't heard TomTom since about 1995.
Yeah, there were separate devices, weren't there, that you actually put in your car. But, we've used Google Maps. Well, not in the last 3.5 years we haven't, but before that we used Google Maps. Oh, Jammy's got a question. Can one of you please treat yourselves to a new watch or phone or outfits for your existing one so we can have an unboxing?
Actually, Jamie, I was about to reply to you in the chat when you put unboxing a few minutes ago. And I was going to say that if you want to buy me a Mac Studio, then I would happily... You would take one for the team? I would happily unbox it for you, yeah.
Get a few more super chats in, Mike, and you'll be able to do that. We'll think about it. We'll think about spending some money.
Oh, if you want to buy me a phone, I'm up for that.
We could unbox our food, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could unbox that. Because Mike made a point about the food last night, that it had arrived a bit battered, like they'd thrown it around. Oh, a Halloween costume. I've been banned from buying Halloween costumes, Renee, after the last time with Lola. She still, she gives me the side eye, even now. It's 4 years on and she gives me the side eye. Jammy deserves a Mac Studio. It would go beautifully with your widescreen monitor, wouldn't it?
That wasn't for you, Jammy.
If you hadn't have missed a step out, he might have bitten then. You never know. You never know. Oh, you don't have a desktop? Oh, yes, but you need one. You need one. Definitely need one. But not more than Mike needs one. There you go. Not more than Mike needs one.
I'm just winding him up.
Right, okay then. If that is it, we will head off. I'm seriously thinking of something nice, for supper.
Okay.
I've already plotted out tomorrow because obviously it's the second week of Strictly and somebody's going home. So I shall be glued to that. Do you know, I can't believe I wasn't interested when it first started. It's like, oh, it'll be all sequins and rubbish. And I won't be interested, I mean, I do remember Come Dancing back in the day. I am old enough. And no, that didn't interest me. I thought it was a farce. So the only time I started watching was Anne Widdecombe. And I just thought Anton was just fabulous with her. So do any of you watch it? Or am I on my own with this one? Oh, Tracy, we were literally just heading off. Oh, good grief. Well, let me know if you do. And who do you think should go? Can't make my mind up. They were actually all very, very good. That's the thing. Gone are the days when they were Anne Widdecombe and who was the other one, the guy? Oh, John Sargent, who couldn't dance at all. So, yes, that is my guilty pleasure. I enjoy that. Right, we will head off then. So I will say good night from me.
And good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.